The Devil's Oven is the most infamous gateway to the supernatural on Mount Desert Island. The sea cave, with its long, dramatic approach along a tortured coastline, has been the setting of ghostly encounters going back thousands of years. The striking thing about these accounts is the unmistakable evil they foretell and the dark rituals of horror they recount. Indeed, the place is dangerous ground. One must approach the Devil's Oven with caution, if not some form of spiritual protection, for this section of Hall's Cove is more aptly called Hell's Cove. A beach cave of large proportions, the Devil's Oven presents 10-foot ceilings and a deep, gloomy interior. From inside, it offers some stunning views of blue water framed by the dark maw of the cavern. From the outside, the cave looks almost like the two eye sockets of a skull, for a rocky ledge divides the enclosure into two chambers. Commonly known as the ovens, the cave earned its original name from Native Americans living in the area long before English settlement. The cavern, located between Hall's Cove and Salisbury Cove, is not easily accessible. If you are going by foot, it is best to start out from the beach near De Gregory Park, less than a mile away. Head north or left when you first get to the shore, and restrict your exploration to the cave itself, for the land around it is private property. Most importantly, be sure to consult a tide chart before starting out, for the cave is underwater much of the time. Like scenes from a blasted inferno, the coastal approach to the Devil's Oven tells a tale in itself. The place resembles a landscape from the underworld. Deposits of sulfur and iron give a fiery look to the blasted cliffs that rise up from the shore. In other places, especially where the water seeps down, the rocks appear pitch black. It is apparent that the land has never healed. The coastline looks as if it was formed only yesterday, not millions of years ago. The rocks form sharp, jagged peaks, totally unlike the worn granite shoreline characteristic of Acadia. Close to the Devil's Oven, an atmosphere of insidious evil permeates the haunted coastline. Here, in places all along the base of the cliffs, the waves have pecked out little ovens, or demon caves. Then, as though signifying a departed church devoted to the forces of darkness, a huge detached wall of cliff, called the Cathedral, juts into the water. In this giant rock is an opening called the Vaimala, a corrupted Latin term for the evil way or road to evil. Of course, the gateway leads right to the Devil's Oven, like an enormous half-buried skull with baleful eyes glaring out of 20-foot cliffs. The Devil's Oven has been the setting of strange encounters for time immemorial. Native Americans have reported seeing strange lights out there, like glowing orbs or great fires burning inside the cavern, regardless of whether or not the place was underwater. In fact, Native Americans considered the whole cliff face on the north side of the island to be evil ground, and they shunned the area. If circumstances required them to go there, they wore charms and took other protective measures. They believed the rocks contained portals or entryways to hell, and the Devil's Oven was the main gateway. Long before contact with Christian missionaries, local Indians had their own concept of hell as a place of darkness inhabited by terrifying entities and tormented souls. Strange sights and sounds are still reported in and around the Devil's Oven. Accounts from the 1880s testify to a, quote, weird, lurid light that might be seen gleaming and flashing out from under the cliffs towards Frenchman Bay in the area of the Devil's Oven. Also inexplicable are the sounds people have heard there, the cries of tormented souls and strange words and chants spoken in aberrant tongues. Fishermen today report mysterious lights burning inside the sea cavern. For centuries, the belief has persisted that danger befalls anyone who sees the phantom fires. The Devil's Oven earns its name from the cavern's ancient purpose, the setting of dark rites. The sea cave was where people died agonizing deaths by being burned alive inside a literal oven. Outrageous as it sounds, the practice of roasting people in the Devil's Oven is a documented fact passed down in the historical records of the region. The gruesome practice was reserved for people viewed as especially evil or dangerous. More feared than a torturous death inside the Devil's Oven was the danger of damnation, for the oven could reputedly devour a soul, pulling it literally into hell. It's almost as if the spirits of the damned are impressed into the dark, convoluted rock of the cave. Centuries later, the smoke and soot reappear over and over again to stain the cavern's roof. With ghastly endurance, the fires return to burn again as reported in stories, lore, and first-hand accounts. No one will ever know the true number of people burned alive in the Devil's Oven. Most likely these terrible rituals took place very rarely over the centuries and with great solemnity. Just as the incoming tide has long since washed away the ashes, Many accounts are now lost, or perhaps conveniently forgotten. But in one instance, an eyewitness account has survived. It took place in the 18th century and concerns a hunter and trapper named Essex Winslow. The Mi'kmaq Indians hated Essex Winslow justifiably, for he was a notorious mercenary, hunting Native Americans for bounty during the French and Indian Wars. During one of his trips into the area, Essex Winslow encountered a group of Mi'kmaqs who captured him and killed the group of mercenaries under his command. To the dreaded sea cavern went Winslow, bound and gagged, and there his captors lashed him with rawhide to a wooden stake driven deep into the pebble beach inside the cavern. A pile of sticks and brush was heaped around the stake and at last was set on fire. The man would be consumed in body by the fire and in soul by the devil of the place. Meanwhile, as night fell across the land, the Native Americans grew increasingly uneasy. Even with protective paint and talismans, they avoided the place completely after sundown. Since the wood piled around the stake was green and damp, the fire burned slowly, although it created a lot of smoke. Finally, the Mi'kmaqs left their enemy staked into a smoldering cloud, figuring that he would die by drowning, if not by fire, for the tide had turned and was now coming in. Casting off hurriedly in canoes through the deepening twilight, they left Essex Winslow to his allotted doom. Amazingly, Essex survived his ordeal, for the fire took so long to catch that the rising tide put it out. The cavern slowly filled with water until the cold, salty waves reached his chin. The buoyancy of the water and his constant struggling loosened the stake, enabling Winslow to escape. Ghastly accounts in the history of Mount Desert testify to traditions of horror at the Devil's Oven. Without a doubt, these atrocities contribute to the supernatural sightings that still plague the place. This is not surprising, since the cavern forms a gateway to realms of the infernal. Through this doorway travel the phantoms of people who committed murder in the cave or died there. In attendance are demon spirits, if not the devil himself. When this happens, the tide-bound cavern will echo in howling cries and the sound of strange, mystic incantations. Then, as always, the fires will burn again, whether or not the cave is underwater. These are the phantom fires. Should they start up, then you must pray for a speedy deliverance. Do not even look back in your frantic scramble to leave this cursed place. Hey guys, Reaper here. I just wanted to thank you all for either watching or listening, whether you're on YouTube or Spotify. This story was brought to you from Ghosts of Acadia, written by Marcus Labrizzi and published by Down East Books. I wanted to give both of them a huge thank you and a huge shout out for letting me bring this book to you guys, whether it's in audio form on Spotify or in video form on YouTube. If you want to check out the book for yourself, I will leave a link down below in the description in both Spotify and on YouTube, so you can go check out the book for yourself and support the original author and original publisher. New story coming out tomorrow night. And until then, remember, sleep well, my friends.